It says it's recording.
Yeah.
We're early too.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Watch
Good
the number grow.
morning.
23. Can they hear us?
Yeah. Well, let's
Hi,
verify.
everyone.
Please drop something in the chat to verify you can hear us, please.
Yep.
Hi.
Oh, we got
There's
a yes
one.
from Howard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Howard.
Woohoo.
Excellent.
Brent.
Welcome, welcome.
Yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. We'll get started in just a couple of minutes. Hey, Sarah, do you want to see if the I can raise my hand sort of thingy works?
I see two. I see one.
Yeah. Okay. So
Did
Meg,
you
it does work.
Excellent.
Where
Look
is
at
it
that.
showing?
The attendees,
By the
participants.
attendees. Do you see the, if you click on the participants tab?
Okay. Oh, there you go.
Should be seeing people rolling in.
All right.
And we're going to give it just a couple more minutes to let everybody get here. And if anybody out there has a good mom or dad joke and you want to drop it in the chat, that would be a good time. Hey, Marcus.
All right. So we were told in a leadership meeting that we had to come up with a dad joke. So I'm going to share my dad joke.
Go for it, Meg.
Nobody
Yes.
ever thinks it's funny. Except for
Never
me.
say never. You haven't
So-
told us.
So I told this, and when everybody was just like looking at me. So let's see if that happens. Ready?
Oh, yeah.
Truth flies like an arrow. Fruit flies like a banana.
I like that one. That one's a good
Yeah.
one.
I think you're going
Now,
to
just imagine the dads out around the ice fishing hole with their poles, and one of them's just like sitting back. Truth flies like an arrow. Fruit flies like a banana.
Brian's got one in the chat.
I was just reading that one.
Yeah.
When does
Yeah.
a bad joke become a dad joke? When it becomes apparent.
Looks like Claudia
Right.
submitted. Let's see. Oh, what is that? Why did the Scarecrow win an award? Because he was outstanding in his field.
Nice.
Nice.
Good job, Claudia.
I like that one. That's for sure a dad joke.
What did the janitor say when he jumped out of the closet? Supplies. Okay.
Caleb's asking if we got all these jokes from ChatGPT.
That's a good idea. Yeah. And yeah, to the note, we are recording. So this will be made available. We'll probably edit out the dad jokes and stuff in the beginning. But I think we want to go ahead and kick off. Everybody ready?
We are ready.
Okay. Well, good. Caleb, we will be sending out a follow-up email, just kind of a thanks for attending. And then it's going to take us a little bit to get the recordings live, but when we do have them live, we'll send out a follow-up email with a link to them for each session coming up. And at the same time, we'll have be able to do that. And the CPEs will get emailed out separately afterwards as well. I'll be sending those out from the chat from from the ISACA San Diego. We've got those set up. So it's set up and then they'll be certified from the chapter and we'll be able to send those out. Caleb, yeah, actually, Caleb, it'll be the email that went into Zoom. So hopefully that's the same one. So, all right. Well, let me dive in and go over what we have for some housekeeping just to kick things off, and then we'll get a rolling. So like I said, we are recording. So if anybody does have an issue with recording, we would ask that you just log off, and then we've got your email address, and we'll let you know when the recordings are available. We're really doing it not to put any of you out there as much as we know there's going to be some great information here that we want to repurpose and be able to share with others that weren't able to be here at that time. Brian, if you can drop, Brian's going to drop some links to upcoming events that we've got coming up. These are a hybrid of ISACA San Diego events, FRSecure, and Security Studio. So the first one, for anybody interested, the ISACA San Diego monthly meeting will be this Thursday. If you're in San Diego, feel free to come and join us. We'll be serving lunch, but it's also available online and open to the public for anybody that wants to attend. It'll be a professor from USD, and his presentation is applying threat intelligence to red team operations. If you are in San Diego on October 29th, there's going to be a San Diego cybersecurity social mixer at one of the breweries here. We're inviting people from ISACA, ISSA, ISE Squared, Women in Cybersecurity, you name it. It's just a great opportunity. We do those once a quarter just for people to get together and hang out without some of the formalities of stuff that we do.
I can recommend that one. Those are a good one.
Nice.
Outstanding. Thanks. And we're going to, there's another one, Brian, I got to get you the link once we get going, but the ISACA chapter actually has a second meeting this month, partnering up with the Cloud Security Alliance. And that'll be at the KPMG building. That one is on site only. And then our second session of this series will be on March 11th, and then starting in April, we've got the FRSecure CISSP mentor program coming up. I think that's it. Brian, is that its like 13th or 14th year now?
I don't know exactly how many years, but we're getting up there. I thought it was a little bit more.
Okay.
It was 2008, I think was the, or 2000. No, that was, I don't know offhand. It's been many.
Okay. It's more than two. But a great session for anybody interested in pursuing CISSP. It's free, open to the public, and you can drink from a fire hose of knowledge through several sessions on that one. I do want to say, and I'll have Brian drop the links in here. This is a collaborative webinar between the ISACA San Diego chapter, FRSecure, where several of us are employed, and Security Studio, where the others of us are employed, but all having the opportunity to work together and bring these presentations to you. I will tell you, we want these to be as open and collaborative as possible. We're looking for different perspectives, not only from ours, but your thoughts. So if you're in the chat and you got some suggestions or anything, please drop them in. This is all very much where we can work, learn, and collaborate together. There are no bad questions. We do ask that you put the questions in the chat or the QA. And Brian, I, and Coral will be looking at those we'll answer you through that or something we talk about. And if you got a question on something that's just more out of what we're doing right here, right now, we'll save them to the end and be able to drop and cover them there. That is pretty much the house cleaning, the terms and conditions we have. But I do want to, before I make introductions, I kind of want to share what brought these to be because we're all very excited about this. This idea actually started about 9 months ago. FRSecure has an internal committee called FRServes, where we do a lot of playing it forward within communities. And when we had the opportunity in that committee last year, brought up the idea of why are we not sharing cybersecurity knowledge that we have with communities and just trying to help get that information out there as much as several of the other initiatives we were doing. And as we worked through that, we really defined the messaging that security is a life skill. We are here to talk about information security, which is physical security and cybersecurity, but there's security everywhere. When I was in the airport last month, you're sitting there just waiting and you hear the recorded message say, security is everyone's responsibility. If you see something, say something. It's to us, it's the same and just an opportunity for us to share knowledge we have and help play it forward for each of you as individuals and members of your community. So under the umbrella of security as a life skill, that's where we put this 5-webinar series together, where we'll be walking through the S2 platform, and we'll explain to it as we get there. At this point, I would just like to take a minute and go around and let each of you panelists just make a quick introduction, who you are, what you do, and why it was important for you to be here. I'll start, if I go left to right, I'll start with Brett. And you're on mute.
Unmute. Yep.
There you
Hey,
go.
everyone. My name is Brett Hammond. I am a security engineer at FRSecure, coming up on my 1-year anniversary with the company. Most of my day-to-day life is spent inside the Microsoft suite, but I am just fascinated by networks. After years of study, I still cannot comprehend how a packet of information sits on a beam of light or a pulse of electricity and zips around the world, bringing us data we can visualize in milliseconds. So this initiative is important to me because cybercriminals spend their lives mastering the transmittal of those packets, and they impact households and small businesses far more than people realize. I myself got started in a small family business, learning information security flying solo, and I know that securing a home or business network is possible for everyone.
Awesome. Awesome. Coral.
My name is Coral Morgan. I have been with FRSecure for 2 years now. I am an information security consultant. My day-to-day is actually super interesting because I work with a multitude of different clients and I have a multitude of different projects that I work on. So I do everything from incident response tabletops to risk assessments for clients to helping those develop business continuity and disaster recovery plans. So there is no day that is the same. No week is the same for me. This initiative is super important to me because part of our mission for FRSecure is to do exactly that, is to help share as much free information for security as we possibly can. I don't know about the rest of you, but I am constantly trying to help my friends and family whenever they have those questions of, hey, something looks funky on my computer. Can you take a look at it? I'm trying to go ahead and get in front of those conversations to say, this is how we start with security. And so I think it benefits everybody. So
Awesome. Awesome. Brian.
Good day, ladies and gents. I am Brian Kelley. I've been with FRSecure, I don't know, 2.5-ish, close to 3-ish years now, 2.5-ish years now. I am also an information security consultant like Coral and Dave. So I do a lot of the similar things to that they do, but just generally with a different group of people. And so lots of assessments, roadmaps, talking with people about security, and all of that sort of fun things. The reason why I'm here is I would like to help out. I like to help people learn. It's always been something that I've done through really all of the jobs that I've had, whether it was in IT, which I did for 15 years before I moved here, or even before that when I was working other just general jobs. I was always the person that ended up being the trainer because I liked doing that. So I just want to help people out.
No, it's awesome. And to share with everybody, we had kind of put out who wanted to participate. We got a whole bunch of feedback. And then a little bit later, Brian reached out and said, hey, I want to do this. And I was like, well, we kind of did that. And and the answer was, it doesn't matter. I will be a part of this. You will just find where to put me and it shall happen. So dude, with everybody here, totally appreciate it and glad you're a part of it. Victoria.
Hi, can you hear me okay? Or am I
Yeah.
not too quiet? Okay. Everyone who wasn't here earlier, I'm practicing with my new iPad stuff. So anyway, I've been with FRSecure now for 5 years, going on my 6th year. And my day-to-day is currently vulnerability management scanning with a bunch of our clients, helping them understand what could be sitting in on their environment, giving them the resources then to understand maybe how they will approach that, because it's a lot of information at once. So giving them all the information for them to build their program up from there. And then I'm part of this just because I have been kind of like Coral and Brian and Brett and everyone else that has been a part of this, is I am constantly helping family and friends, trying to get ahead so that they don't get caught up in something. And I figured this is so much better of an opportunity because then we can record it and I can play it for them and then they can learn it at their own pace. And then when they have questions, they can come back to us. So, yeah.
No, yeah, that's awesome. And for those of you that don't know me, yeah, my name's Dave Tuckman, like Brian and Coral. I'm an information security consultant at FRSecure. It's been just over 1 year now. So my day in, day out activities very similar to those, where it's a wide array of clients, and we're just doing something to help those clients move the needle in the right direction and their resiliency of information security. Last and certainly not least, our guest panelist is Meg Perrin, and we'll let her make introductions. And thank you for dropping the link for the Academy in there. You're on mute.
I think that just went to the host and panelists. So Brian, if you want to share that, that's fine.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool.
All right. So first of all, I've got a disclaimer. I am not that person that creates a PowerPoint to introduce myself. This was a planned part of the session because everybody's just talking about their introductions, and then here I come with this slide deck. So I just wanted to say that.
Tell us who you are before we hop into the slide deck,
You bet.
or is that in the slide deck?
It's kind of in it. So if you want to go to the first screen, then I'll just start.
Beautiful.
But my name is Meg Perrin, and I actually work for FRSecure's sister company, and we are called Security Studio, and my role there is the Academy Director. So with a very brief description or explanation, how Security Studio came about from FRSecure, the tool that FRSecure built for FRSecure is now available to anybody and everybody through Security Studio. So because of FRSecure's ongoing success, that move was made to help others find that same level of success, all in the name of our mission. And I'm going to talk about our mission soon here. So you can see from this screen right here that we have 5 modules that our tool offers. That's S2 Partner, S2 Vendor, S2 org, S2 team, and S2 PCI is our newest addition. S2 Me is the tool that we're focused on tonight, and that falls under the S2 teams module. And the reason that S2 Me was created was because it was created to help teams identify the security gaps that might exist throughout their organization. So if an organization wants to give the S2 Me assessment to their entire organization, everybody takes it, and then it provides the data to the organization that is collected anonymously. So no one would have to worry about, well, they're going to see that I don't know this, or that I answered this question this way. Nobody sees who answered what. It just gives a summation of all the data that's collected. And then that data can be used for the organization to identify gaps that might exist, and then they can create trainings that can come out of it. So our purposes throughout this series is that we're going to be helping you identify your own gaps as it relates to your own personal hygiene in the world of cybersecurity. And the next slide. Thank you. So let's talk about the heart behind FRSecure and Security Studio. As I said, I'd talk about our mission. We are on this shared mission together to fix the broken industry. Evan Francine is our CEO and founder, and he sums it up well with his hashtag that he likes to use of putting mission before money. This overarching theme is what really drives us to offer these types of trainings. So we're doing this S2 Me training, the CISSP training that is free and has been since it began way back when. You guys were just talking about how many years. It's been a lot of years, but what I understood, started out with 6 people, and now it's in the tens of thousands of people that come to get the training to be successful on their CISSP exam. We have a plethora. Both of our websites have a tremendous amount of free resources, from policy templates, playbooks, all kinds of things. So just go to our websites, take a gander. We offer those free to you so that you can improve your own security posture. And that's really what's behind everything that we do, is putting mission before money. And to copy what we teach in the academy, you are going to make money if you focus on the mission, but if you focus on the money, you're probably not going to fulfill your mission. So think about that one. All right, let's transition to what it means to fix the broken industry. In a very abbreviated fashion, we want people to learn how to understand, how to manage, and how to limit the effects of risks as individuals and within their organizations. So S2Me helps us accomplish that. Another major factor in our industry is the language that we speak. It's imperative that we start speaking the same language. That means we got to understand the language of the people that we're talking to. And we want to make sure that we help them. As a fairly new person, I'm one of the newbies of this group. I've only been in this industry for a couple of years, made a career change from public education in my late 50s. So, this whole speaking the same language, I can tell you how important that is, because if you don't understand the language, then it's really helpful for us to get on the same page. So S2Me is going to help us accomplish that as well, because just doing the assessment is going to help you learn some of that common language. Then once we're speaking the same language, now we can start educating those that are in our circle of influence to improve their information security knowledge. This educational approach to behavior improvement is central to Security Studio's core belief, and that is to help people. Go ahead to the next one. Thank you. Now, let me say that last piece again. The educational approach to behavior improvement is central to Security Studio's core belief. Hence, the Academy was born. Evan is also the mastermind behind the Security Studio Academy, and he has been an expert in this field of information security for decades. The core of our academy is the CVCISO program, which was built to establish the industry standard for vCISO quality and qualifications. A link to our syllabus, I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat. So that's a link to our syllabus. And to date, we are the only vCISO certification and have achieved the status of a registered training provider with the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Careers and Studies, which you can find on the CISA website. What we have built is a robust curriculum with an emphasis on labs to help you gain some real-world experience, but also the theory that's needed to close gaps where they may exist. If you use the coupon code above, so in the white box on the screen that you see, there's a coupon code called S2Me. If you use that, you will receive $1,000 off any of our CVCISO Foundation 1 course. That's the Foundations course for the remainder of this year. We have a session starting in April, one is starting in July, and one is starting in October. For those of you that have already obtained your CISSP, we see this as a natural next step to that cert. But we also see it as a beginning step, which is how I got involved. The reason it can be both is because the certification is leveled based on your experience, and you'd learn more and more about that. Plus, it's on our website if you go to the security, if you go to the Academy website. All right, so with that, we're going to go ahead and get started, Dave.
Awesome. Awesome. Brian, okay, so real quick, just so everybody knows and you can see, this application is available to anybody here. If you want to go, it's at no cost, and you can register and be able to use this on your own or with friends and family as well. When you get to the platform and you log in, you'll see that we've got, Brian, if you can scroll down just a little bit. These are the 10 sections that the platform will walk somebody through, asking questions that we answer yes or no to. And based on that, we get a quantifiable score of how secure our home network is, and giving us the opportunity to make it more resilient from there. So what we're going to do in each of these sessions is go through 2 of these modules, so we got more time to riff and talk about them and answer any questions. So what we'll do is, why don't we just go ahead and jump into household computer safety, if you would, and we'll get started.
Okay.
And sorry, there was a question in the QA. Yeah, the recordings will be available. It'll take us a little bit to get them out, but we'll send a follow-up email with them. We'll be recording each of the 5 sessions, so we've got that. Meg, you want to read what question number 1 asks?
You bet. So question number 1 says, are you or members of your household using computer systems that run any of the following operating systems? Microsoft Windows, Apple Macs, or desktop versions of Linux? So if you can't say yes to that question, then there's no need to go further.
You get a full 850.
Yeah. Actually, Brian, if you want to
you
click
get a score of 850 if you say no.
850, so, perfect. And right now we're rocking it. We're not doing a whole lot with cyber, but we're really secure. So, but we're gonna.
I'm guessing we're gonna use some devices.
I'm thinking we have to say yes for the sake of.
Probably have to say yes. Yeah. Most people would have to say yes to the first question. And
Otherwise, this is going to be a really short webinar.
Yeah, we're going to be able to give a lot of people.
Okay, the answer's no. Let's go.
Okay.
Thanks for
And real
joining
quick,
us.
just to Brian, would you like to explain how the scoring works?
So just so you guys are aware, if since you guys saw that pop up and it was mentioned, you get an 850 for this section if you answer no to this, which the scoring of this is meant to be very similar to a credit score. So you're going to get something between 300 and 850, and then depending on how these questions are answered, it's going to give you a score from within that range to uh, give you an idea of how you're doing on this. So as a note, when you guys do see that score mentioned, or that 850 in this case mentioned, that is what this is referring to, and that's what the score is.
Yeah. And an 850 and everything's not realistic. That would be perfect. So what we're trying to do, and even for what we do day in, day out, is help people get as close to that as possible within what is acceptable risk for them or their organization. So because Meg clicked yes, Brett,
We get a lot more questions.
Yeah, but what kind of risk comes with those questions? What
And
sort of nuggets of knowledge would you like to share with us now?
we should note that this is just for desktops and laptops. We will cover mobile devices in a future episode, so stay tuned for that. And anytime we're going to have a laptop or desktop PC at home, we're going to be vulnerable to risk. And bad news for everybody, there's bad actors out there. And anytime a machine is connected to the internet, that means it is public facing, and anybody on the internet can theoretically reach that device, which opens up a lot of risk. And moving on to 1.2, how many systems are running really is going to be an indicator of how hard it is to contain that risk. And this is kind of a feeder question, and you will see as we continue down the list why having more devices makes controlling risk more difficult. But I also want to point out the operating systems listed are, believe it or not, Windows controls 70% of the operating system market share for non-mobile devices. So as popular as we think Apple is, when it comes to home desktop devices, they only have about 16% market share, and Linux is at about 3%. So don't feel bad if you don't use Linux or you've never seen that word before. It's not very common. It's more for security researchers and penetration testers who are doing stuff that the bad actors are doing.
Yeah, and one thing to that note is when we go to from one device to like 5 or more, it means it's 5 different, could be 5 people. So now you got 5 different behaviors going on out there, whether it's children or spouses or others who have varying degrees of what is secure. We want to go on. Does anybody have any questions? We do have some questions.
There's a couple questions in the chat and one in the Q&A.
How secure is Linux system? I will just touch on security really quick, and it really goes to that point of the market share. And I think there's kind of a misnomer about the security of Apple specifically, or Linux. And Apple isn't necessarily that much more secure than Windows. It's that there are way more Windows machines out there. So the bad actors are going to be targeting Windows machines and spending a lot more time to find exploits. Now, at its core, baseline Linux is more secure. Absolutely. Apple's more secure also. But I think if the market share for Linux went up to 30% instead of 3%, then we're going to find out that there's a lot more vulnerabilities out there that we don't know about.
Yeah, and I think one of the takeaways is that any operating system will have patches. and updates that are required. New compromises or attack vectors are always kind of being found. So it's just important to
Dave, I'll address the next question, which was, who is the target of the site survey tool?
Yeah.
The target, obviously individuals like us, but S2Me is a tool that falls under the S2 team module. And one of the uses of it is for organizations to be able to have all their employees take the S2Me so that they can understand kind of the makeup of their organization and their security posture. So it can be for individuals in a household, people, like for my home, I'm in charge of the security in my home because I'm the only one that knows anything about it. So, those type of people in homes, but also then teams in organizations.
Right on.
I would even add small businesses. I came from a small business. We only had 6 devices. So I could really view it as a home network. So anybody who just doesn't have the resources to pay a company like FRSecure to do a risk assessment has access to this. And as you'll see in the later episodes, it gets pretty, security centric. So I think it has a place for small businesses and medium businesses even.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there are home-based businesses as well that just kind of straddle that fence as well. But yeah, I think if really for anybody that can benefit from it, it's a tool designed to be up there for you. There are some other questions here. Let's see what we got.
Mm-hmm.
Should I answer not sure if I apply patches, but my family members don't necessarily have the same great habits for their laptops? How would you answer that, Victoria?
I would say you're gonna have to go with false because if it's not all there, unfortunately, that is your risk factor, right? That you have to take account of. So I hate to do that because it is black and white kind of when it comes down to these kind of assessments. And you would hate for 90% to be there and then someone gets in because of that 10% not being rounded out. So
if you think of always just trying to be as objective as possible, we don't want any subjectivity to come into the assessments. And that's why we really create more of this black and white response. It's either or, it can't be both. And that's going to give us the most reliable answer. Yes.
I think if you go for not sure, that's if you're kind of sitting at the question going, I don't know, because you don't understand what the question is maybe asking you, or just again, you're not completely sure what the habits are yet of if there are other people in your household or in your small business that you're trying to answer this for. Then you put a not sure, see what the recommendations are, follow back up once you do have all the information, right? And then see how that might change your approach to your security and your habits that you're trying to teach other people to have. So.
Brian, can you hit not sure on 1.3?
It might give you the same answer as false. But
I think it's going to at least give you the risk. So I think answering it not sure when you don't know is going to give you at least a pop-up of what some of the risk is.
Yeah.
And to that point, let me just start by saying updates and patches, especially security patches, should be considered high priority at this point. Postponing updates was cool once upon a time, but it's 2024. Computers are here to stay.
Cool.
Bad actors are here to stay, and systems need to be kept up to date. And you might notice the word vulnerabilities down there under the risk section. We're going to touch on that a little bit more in question 1.5.
So wait, I have a question. How many systems do we have? I mean, we have to make this an appropriate assessment. So are we going to answer that we have 5 or more?
We have to have 5 or more.
Well, there's
5 or
6
more
of us.
Yeah. Okay.
Good call. Yeah. And to your answer on the other one, Victoria, you know, even if you're that one doing really good and I'm not, I am making that network less secure by my behavior. So, anywho, would you like to read the next one, Victoria?
Sure. All right, 1.4, security updates and patches are applied automatically in all systems. So remember, all systems being whatever devices that we're thinking of being involved in this, right? And so let's say, no, I don't have it automatically happening. I manually do everything for all 10 devices that I have. Let's see what my risk is. Brian, do you want to hit? Oh, no.
Sorry, what was that?
Let's hit false.
False.
Let's
Okay,
say I'm
sorry.
not doing it automatically. Yeah. So this is a reason why this is suggesting to have it automated to a point, right? We can't totally rely on it because even automation is just a machine being told by a person what to do. But this actually helps then kind of keep you on track with if you forget, kind of like an alarm to wake up in the morning or an alarm to take any medication. This is just going to help kind of round things out again so that you don't miss everything, but still something that we need to check up on. So, and then your operating system like Microsoft, Linux, whatever, they do have those features that you can turn on, even at home. You don't have to wait for your IT at work to do it for you to actually accomplish that. Anyone have anything else to add?
I will note for this question, it does say security updates and patches.
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, many, if not most, security updates and patches for Windows can download and install without the need for a restart. And the machine should explicitly state when a restart is needed for the update or patch to take effect. So that would be the one case where the automation kind of throws a little monkey wrench in there is systems do need to get rebooted, applications do need to be closed out. So we do need to be aware of that.
Yeah, very good point.
Yeah.
All right, Brett.
Moving on, 1.5, all software is up to date, running vendor-supported versions with all security updates and patches applied. Let's say false to that, Brian. And Victoria, as our resident vulnerability expert.
Oh, geez. Okay.
What is a vulnerability?
I'm in Minnesota right now, so you're going to hear a lot of O's and a lot of oh, geez.
But this will be good because we have questions in the chat in regards to why is it important to install all of the updates and all of the patches.
Okay. So
and we decided that there was just too much starting information, so we pushed it down to right here. So now Victoria can tell us what a vulnerability is.
What a vulnerability is? Do you want
and how it's exploited?
Do we want the textbook one or so? Nonchalantly definition off the cuff is basically a vulnerability is anything that is going to it's flaws in the actual making of your software. It is the making of your application. Developers are doing the best they can, but obviously they're human and sometimes they make mistakes. And then we have the wonderful people who are trying to take advantage of those mistakes, and they find them, right? And then now they can control our stuff or gather our data, the things that you're hearing about all through the news, just because whoops, kind of a thing. So then once they figure out the whoops, then they try and correct it with a patch. So it's like a hole in a boat. We're going to put something over that so that water stays out. And sometimes you have a lot of holes in the boat, and sometimes we don't have all the tape in the world to cover them, but we try to do the best we can. So the moment they realize something is out there, that's when they're rolling out the patch, is what you'll hear. And that's how you can apply the patch to your device. And then that way it can hopefully keep the bad guys frustrated enough to go away. I don't know. Is that good enough
Find
for
easier
that?
fishing.
It did good.
Yeah, that was better than having Brett read what Google says. So
Google can be useful, but make relatable stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a question here. Meg, I'll put you on the spot and you can throw it over to Brett if you like. So how to respond to those people who said automatic Windows security updates screw up their computer system?
Oh, that's definitely going to Brett.
I do
Brett, how do you
Okay.
handle that?
Well, let me tell you something. They're probably wrong about it screwing up their system. No, they have different release times, so they have a stable release, and you can change your setting so that you're not automatically applying the most recent update the fastest possible. I know in the enterprise setting, we don't want things to break when you are using certain tools, and I totally understand where you're coming from. But once you sign up for a stable release, it shouldn't be breaking stuff. They should have done all the breaking by the time it gets to you. Yeah, that's a good hard one to fight against somebody, especially if they're like, "Hey, this doesn't work. What do you want me to do?"
Well,
Roll
but
it
then
back.
there's also the suggestion of, okay, what could we think of outside of the box then if we cannot apply this because it will break because it's too old, there's something running it that we need 24/7. What are the alternatives that we can do to still maybe make it a little bit more secure, even temporarily,
Mhm.
without just staying out there and be like, come and get me, kind of a thing. What would you think, Brett?
I mean, it
Workaround?
depends. Yeah. I mean, right now we're really thinking home network, small business, so that's a little farther out there. I think, doing research on the vulnerabilities of the software that you're using, figuring out what is missing. There's, we talk about firewalls later on, but making sure that it's not communicating with certain systems or reaching out to the internet. There are different ways that you can work with tools, but anything a person or an enterprise is using at this point should be a well-known tool that is working really closely with Microsoft in developing and testing. If you're having those types of issues, I gotta wonder if the software is something just not well known.
Yeah. Were you thinking of something in particular there, Victoria? Or
No, not really. It's just sometimes I do come across that with certain clients. They do have legacy stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even at home, and there is that, unfortunately, if I do this, I won't have anything. And it's just like, if that were to come up in your home or with a work computer at home, because you're a small business and you're maybe the person running it, just kind of thinking that through before you just decide, hands up, I can't do it, and just taking that risk, just having more of a thought through of like, okay, what could I do temporarily until either I get a new application or figure out something else.
yeah, and the one thing that we didn't touch on is back up your data.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, we kind of like I'm always preaching to people that it's really less about the device and more about the data. So if you are dealing with an older machine or something like that does happen, if you've got the data, we got a path forward, you know.
That's a
How do you
great.
guys recommend that for people in their homes back up their data? What's the recommendation?
It depends
Um,
what you get
yeah.
for if you have Microsoft Windows or Mac OS, you get iCloud or OneDrive. At the free tier, you get a limited amount. I personally pay for cloud backup for both Microsoft and Apple. It's a small, I feel like it's just part of the one monthly bills that we have at this day and age to make sure all my pictures of my kids are secure is really all it really matters. And those are the two main ones that you're going to come across. There's third parties that you can purchase, but you're going to lose all kinds of security.
Yeah, like for example, here we signed up as a family for the Microsoft Family Plan. So it's like 5 or 6 users that get the Microsoft Office subscriptions. And then with that, we set up OneDrive. So I actually over the weekend took an old laptop here and set it up where if something happened to mine, I could just log in on that and everything is synced up. And I set it up with a profile for myself, one for my wife, and one for my son. So if any of the devices or we have a hardware issue, whether it's from patching or whatever, it's kind of a next one up. Be able to log in and be able to get to go.
And I'm one of those people, I have a backup utility that I use that's a third party, but it's well known. And I have a RAID set up for me because I also have a bunch of kids. And so all of those pictures over the last 13 years, I came across an issue where one of my hard drives had failed with one of the backups, and I potentially had lost a bunch of data, but I was able to regain it. But that made me realize at that point in time that just having a backup wasn't enough for me. Like I needed a backup for my backup. So
And I think trusting cloud backups is pretty secure at this point. Anybody who asks me whether it's safe there, I say if Microsoft's data centers no longer have our data, then we have a lot bigger issues than not finding our pictures.
Cool. Okay. I do believe we've kicked that horse a good amount. Brett, you want to read the next question?
Yeah, no, 1.6, going back to the automatic updates, and this one applying to the software, which is, I feel like the software vendors are getting a little bit better at this and ensuring that automatic updates are part of the base settings. In fact, we have started to see vendors set minimum version requirements, meaning a user cannot even use the application until it's updated to the current version. So even if it takes getting breached and losing millions of dollars, vendors are starting to be proactive on our behalf.
So what I look for on this particular question is all the bubbles, the bubbles that come up that say, you've got an update, and just make sure. So I personally have a laptop that is a work laptop that I only use. Well, I shouldn't say I only use for work, just because I have access to like my pictures or whatever. But I look for relaunching in order to update, on your web browser, because that's how they'll push them out. So it's an automatic update, but the automatic can be a little deceiving, because if it's automatic, you might think, well, it's done for me. Well, yeah, it is, but a lot of times there's a trigger that you have to do in order to make it take. And that's usually relaunching your web browser to update with the button that shows. In fact, you can see, and mine is still there too, Brian. So in the upper right-hand corner of the shared screen where it says relaunch to update. So that means we got to click that. And that's what I usually look for when I'm making sure. And then when I get one of my kids or my husband's phones and they have, 2 missed updates, that's when we usually have conversations.
And that was an accepted risk for us to not click on that to right before the webinar to not screw things up. So.
And I think that just goes back to the original point of needing to relaunch things, to reboot things. Our computers, every device has something called RAM, which means it is temporary memory storage. And when stuff gets built up, systems slow down. Things need to be rebooted and refreshed. That's our internet modems and routers. All technology needs to go through a power cycle every once in a while.
Very true. Dude, you want to read the next one?
All software is obtained from a reputable from reputable sources. So, well, hopefully we're not using pirated, illegal, or unlicensed software, but
well, we're not saying we are, but hypothetically, if Victoria and I were, what would the potential risk to us be?
What would that risk be, Victoria?
None, because we're not using it. No. So as it says, there's 2 issues off the bat, right? I mean, it comes with a lot more, but the 2 main ones here is that it could already contain malicious code because you don't know who put it out there for you to take illegally or pirated or that's been unlicensed. Again, humans are behind everything, so they can pop something in there. That code could then cause that vulnerability that we kind of touched on earlier. It can cause them to be able to have a window into your machine and see what you're doing or gather data for what you think is staying safe just because it's at home. And then from there, the second one, yeah, I mean, you're being naughty. You're out of compliance with the license agreement, like Microsoft, right? If you pirate Microsoft, there's a huge agreement that you're supposed to do. And, the feds don't really like that stuff, but neither does the companies that made the product, software, application, however you want to categorize it. So yeah, those are the 2 ones I would say.
So does that mean that I shouldn't be, if I'm on the internet and there's, a free download for something, does that mean I shouldn't be doing that?
Well, you have to determine what the free download's for.
How do I determine, like, if I want to make sure that it's a reputable source, how would I determine that? If I'm looking at this website and I see a download and I really want the download.
I can tell you that there is something called a hash, and any software that is created, you can run any text document, Word, it doesn't matter, any file that you can physically put on a computer, you can get a hash. There's a bunch of different hash algorithms, and that is going to give you a string of characters that is essentially, you can't replicate it. There's called collisions. It is possible, but if you went into, let's say, a text document with 20,000 characters and you changed just one period or deleted a period and you got a new hash, you're going to get a completely different random string of characters. Technically not random. And you can compare those. So if you went to the Microsoft website or name a third-party Sublime text editor and you downloaded their installer, you could get a hash from that and compare it to the hash that you got from the freeware site that you found. And if they match, then you know that this is safe.
Okay.
If they don't, stay away. That's also a little more technical to find that stuff. And I would say don't download free stuff that you're supposed to pay for.
Yeah. Especially if it's brand name, it's pretty darn clear, right? That if it's brand name and it's not on their own website saying it's free, probably don't do it. As tempting as it is, because who doesn't like free?
Right.
But I think you're spot on, Brett. And then if you have an issue trying to find the hash, trying to verify it, then just walk away, right? And go for something else that is clearly has a background as being something that's legit.
I think Michael makes a good point in the chat too. He says, always download at original site only, never from redistributions.
That's a good point.
Agreed.
Yeah, Michael's a smart dude. He is.
Is there anyone you don't know, Dave?
Yeah, there's several here. But Michael is one where he'll acknowledge that we know each other publicly. So
yeah,
one of them.
Try to leverage that. Yeah. All right, let's move on.
Let's move forward.
Yeah.
1.8.
What do we got?
Why don't we have Meg read 1.8 and then
all right.
And then if 1.9 pops up, Victoria, we'll have you dive in there.
Okay, so are any computer systems running Windows, Mac OS, or desktop versions of Linux provided by an employer? So for me personally, my laptop is provided by my employer. Then I would have to say yes to that question, even though we have several devices within our home that aren't. So I would have to say yes
Correct.
to that one. But if you were to say no, what does it say about risk?
Then there is no added risk, and you just move on to question 1.10.
Correct.
Yeah, so if you notice, there's no 1.9 here. So if you don't have any work computers, which would include, do you bring a computer home from work and log into it while you're at home? If you do that, then you would have to answer yes to this question. So if you have any kind of work device that you bring into your home network and you use that computer at home, you would have to answer yes. And when you answer yes, then 1.9 pops up. So we're going to say yes for this one.
All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and that's all the more reason to not let your employer give you something with pirated software. Not that we do that, but
don't have your employer give you pirated software.
Right.
Okay.
How would you know?
Yeah, Dave. You're supposed to trust them, right?
I would reach out to Brett and have him tell me to Google it.
Good answer.
I digress, please.
All right. So then the risk that, right, is that we're now at home on our internet. Kids are in the other side using their tablets. And now we got our employer linked technically, right? So now that data that is sitting on your laptop, on your home network, is now enthralled in that risk. It's kind of what this is now coming to a head about. So then 1.9, employer provided systems are never used for conducting personal business or for entertainment purposes. Oh yeah, that one's it. Ooh, I feel like a lot of people out there might be guilty of this. So if you're doing personal business, entertainment purposes, a little mixed bag, but if you are doing it, all this is saying is that it is going to add just another risk factor to that device itself, right? So now you have it on the home network with your kids' tablets. Then you also now are doing internet searches, you're watching stuff, YouTube is a good example. That is just adding risk. The more you do on a device, the more prone to risk you can be.
I will add a story here because in one of my
good.
previous jobs, I was an incident response engineer. And so one of the cases that I had for incident response was the employee's laptop computer provided by the employer, but they had used it for personal purposes, such as, shopping, Spotify, Facebook. They had come across some malware and some spyware on those other sites, and had infected the work computer. So it does happen.
So if you like to listen to music while you're working, so all of us work from home, right? And you like to listen to music, you would recommend not doing that on my laptop and having something else?
I would recommend using your own personal phone or a Walkman. Weren't we talking about that earlier, Victoria?
Walkmans are coming back, kids.
Yeah.
They're going to be the hottest
God.
new thing in 2024. Mark my words.
Yeah. And another example of that kind of where Coral was going is too often we'll see where and somebody on executive leadership is checking personal email on the work device, which has access to all the work data and information, and hackers know that that's an angle that they can go after. So cool. Hey, I'm gonna have us kind of keep moving forward. I think I am loving the back and forth. I just want to make sure we don't fall too far behind time wise.
Yeah.
So, Meg, would you like to read the next one?
Which one are we on? 19 or 110?
10.
110.
Okay, I use separate dedicated computers for sensitive financial transactions and access to private information. The same computers aren't used for checking email, browsing the internet, or entertainment. True, false, or not sure. So are you telling me I've got to have my work computer? I've got to have a separate computer if I want to play my music or use my phone. And then I got to have another computer to access my bank accounts.
If you like that separation of risk, yeah, absolutely. No, it's just saying, especially for like financials, right? That's huge that we're dealing with. So, I mean, Brian Kelley, who's part of the panel, explained that his own father has a dedicated laptop, only checking bank stuff, and then he has a dedicated personal device that does everything else. This can get a little clunky, right? You don't have to have it, but just be aware then, okay, if I'm going to do all of my activities on one device that's not the employer device, then that's just risk you have to be aware of. That could happen, right? But Brian even shared that his dad has his own two separate completely. So it is possible. Yeah.
Yeah, and it will ultimately boil down to your acceptable level of risk.
Yeah.
And the important thing is just that you are aware of it so you can make an educated decision. Cool. Let's go on to the next one if we can.
Yeah,
Real quick, I just want to answer Caleb's question here. So Caleb, my question would be, which virtual machine are you using that for finances, and which one are you using, or which one's the default? Because if you are running a virtual machine and you're doing all your finances there, then I'd be worried if something on the regular system got infected and then was able to like keylog what you're putting then into the virtual machine. So just for your consideration on that, if you're going to be doing stuff that's maybe keep the more secure stuff on the desktop and the less secure stuff on the virtual machine would be my suggestion.
and for those of you that don't know, a virtual machine is literally like a machine within your machine. So it's in its own environment. A lot of organizations will use that for training. If you want to do like live training stuff on cybersecurity type problems or solutions, then they put virtual machines within a machine. So that's what that means.
And then real quick, Glenn is asking some good questions in chat. So if they're all in the same group, right? So on the same network, does it really reduce the risk? Well, that's when the VLANs and we get a little bit more technical come into play, right? So like Dave has things separated at his house. So yeah, using separate devices helps, but then separating them out on the network is just a lot deeper to go if you wanted to. But should we do 111?
Yeah.
So privileged or administrative accounts are not used for general everyday computing. These accounts are only used when absolutely necessary, such as installing new software, changing system configurations, etc.
This one's a little bit more technical.
A little bit.
And anyone who uses a Windows computer, you are more than likely signed in as an administrator because that original user setup creates an administrative user. Now, what that means, and let me take a step back, that you've probably seen a pop-up window asking you to click yes when installing a program. What you might not know is that you are approving administrative access when you do that. And in an enterprise environment, typically the user is set up as a standard account, and then you have completely separate login credentials, meaning a whole different username and password to approve that administrative access. A little more complicated for the average user to go into, it's called computer management, where you see your users and groups locally, and you pretty much need to create a new user, assign it to the administrators group, and then change your user to a standard user. That is not a standard practice by Microsoft. Even with enterprise deployment, their Intune mobile device management platform still sends new users as admin. We don't like it from a security perspective.
So how do I check for this? If I'm taking this about my home network, how do I figure out whether it's true, false, or not sure? Like, how will I know who's the administrator or privileged users?
Tell you what if we save that to the end?
Okay.
And presuming just we got time, or even if we need to roll it into the next one, we can take a couple minutes to show where those settings are to help make it easy for everybody. Because I'd rather get us to a point where we can just more easily show it and versus describe it.
Okay.
If that's cool.
Absolutely. And moving on, all systems are protected with full disk encryption. And I see the two they list there, BitLocker and File Vault. BitLocker, I believe you need to have Windows Pro licensing to use that encryption. And then Mac OS File Vault is just standard available to all Mac users. And what it means is it's essentially putting that if somebody were to steal your device and they didn't have your user password to get into the device, then they could not wipe the device and steal it from you. They would have to have that encryption key, a decryption key. And that's if somebody stole your device and they were logged in, I'm pretty sure they could wipe it, whether or not this is enabled.
Yeah, and I think that's the spirit of this one is just your data is on there, but if it's encrypted, you've got a higher level of protection on it. So if it were lost or stolen, and somebody doesn't have those credentials, your data is not as much at risk.
And I see it was summed up more succinctly than I could have by choosing false.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. We'll go on to the next one. Just I just want to make sure we got time for the next section.
Yeah, 113, all systems are running antivirus anti-malware protection with real-time scanning enabled. I think that's kind of the key phrase right there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you click or open a software that has malware on it, you probably don't want to know about it 3 days later. And that real-time scanning, I know for Microsoft at least, is exactly what it means. It's running a scan every few seconds, maybe every minute. But it's going to depend from which antivirus you're using. Obviously, we know Norton and McAfee are some of the more well-known ones, but we definitely want to have that real-time scanning enabled.
Victoria, you want to touch on 114 and 115 because those are kind of related.
Yeah, so antivirus and anti-malware software is updated automatically, so kind of bringing it back around from the patching, right? So having that setting. And also full system malware virus scans are run monthly or more frequently. So when we're looking at antivirus, anti-malware, again, same kind of thing, making sure that whatever software you choose, we're enabling it to do automatic updates instead of the manual push out, just making sure that fits with your environment. And then the full system malware scans are running monthly or more frequently. So those malware scans, again, are picking up things that are starting to become aware in the wild, and then that way you know about them easier and quicker than, say, if you were to run those scans less frequently. It just helps you kind of keep on top of things. You're going to feel like whack-a-mole probably a little bit, but at least it's not as bad as if you let it go for 6 months or more.
And touching on it, the software being updated, the way that antivirus finds malware is through detection signatures, which is like that hash I was talking about earlier. And there are new pieces of malware being discovered every single day, and new signatures are being taken, and all the antivirus software vendors are updating their signature base daily, most likely.
Yeah, good point.
Right on.
Right,
you want to read?
Personal firewalls are running on all systems. This one, let's say no, if you wouldn't mind, Brian. Firewalls are a little more complex, especially for the home network. But essentially what it is an access control that says a computer cannot communicate on this port if I say so. This was a little more difficult to explain in layman terms. Victoria, can you give me a crack at it?
Well, so like a personal firewall. So again, we're putting that layer in between, right? You and the outside. And if you have naughty things already on your home network that you're trying to clean up, this can maybe help kind of put that extra barrier until you can get things under control. And those, I believe, in Microsoft, you can turn, like they have a built-in personal firewall, like Bitdefender, or am I thinking something else?
Bitdefender does.
That does
I
have
have
it built in.
Bitdefender at home.
And that, that's just a turn-on option. I'm not sure if regular Windows 10 offers it, or if you have to go to the Pro version. Thank you, Howard. Yeah, so Defender. And yeah, so the options are built in. It's not really something you have to seek out, as well as something to keep in mind. You can, obviously, you don't have to use that. You can use a different product. But just to know that the things are there, it's not beyond your ability to get them at home. So.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that, if I can, or the analogy I've used in the past, is your computer's kind of like a house. And if you don't have the firewall enabled, it's like having every door and every window open. And you can go into that firewall and say, we want to close these ones because we don't normally use them. And the more that we have those enabled or leverage that capability, the more it helps protect what could come through those doors and windows. And as those comes through, that's where the malware checks it to hopefully
So
catch.
if I purchase something like Bitdefender, then is the firewall automatic, or is there something I need to do in addition? Like, is it another purchase? Is it a part of what I purchased?
It's going to depend on that product. I mean, Windows comes with one. I don't know if Windows Home has it, but I know Windows Pro does. And then I know that there's different products where you can buy just the malware protection or the malware protection with some additional capabilities. And then those additional capabilities, one would be like a firewall. Maybe like a spam filter and stuff like that too.
It should be like a switch to turn it on, and then you can get more granular and create rules.
Gotcha.
Cool. All right, why don't we cruise over to the next section?
Ooh, internet safety.
Using the internet safely.
Here, and I'm gonna step away for just one sec. So whoever wants to read number 1, and I'll be right back.
Well, Meg, do you use the internet?
Oh, yes, I do, as a matter of fact.
Well, funny. So do I.
So you'll notice that the sections, like we start out with these, real broad overarching, because essentially if you don't use the internet, there's no reason for you to move forward. But when you say yes, then you get all your additional questions.
Yeah.
And you get the 850 when you say no, which is the point is that's the only way you're going to get an 850 is if you don't use the internet.
Brett, what's
And
2.2?
Moving on to 2.2, I know how to verify I am on a valid and legitimate website and always double check before logging into them. This one is interesting because there are bad actors out there who create different domains that look very similar to the wording of something you might use, or they can go and just copy the website. I mean, you can open up the source code for like any website and copy it and just create a brand new one for a login page to Bank of America or whatever you might have. So one way to verify is to copy the URL and paste it into Word or Notepad and see if there's any funky characters that pop out. Is there O that is a 0? Is there one that I know internally we've used is RN for an M. So we made Microsoft.com, but instead of the M, we used RN, and it looks just like Microsoft.com. Tricks a lot of people. So put in the actual text of the URL into something where you can verify is one way. What do you think, Victoria?
I'm just thinking, as much as I'm sure people dislike it, now you can go back to all that phishing training that you've had at work, teaching you how to read those emails, things to look for. Those are going to apply exactly the same at home or outside of the workplace when you're looking at URLs, when you're looking at logins. It's going to look, something's going to be off. They've gotten a lot of sophistication these days, but they still slip up because they're still human and they can't completely duplicate everything. So just really making sure if you're new to that site, does your all make sense? Is it making you go all of a sudden changing it on you, like the bait and switch, right? When you try and go to the next page. So that's why I said, just use that training that your employer has been giving you and you're going to be fine. But just be aware, right? Don't feel rushed, because the moment you're rushed, the better people I know I work with are going to get something on you. So.
And to Glenn's point, always go to the don't click any links, especially from emails, no matter what. If you trust it's from your bank, don't click it. Just go to the bank's website. The information will be there for you.
And then that kind of brings us to the next bit. That flows very nicely, actually. So 2.3, when you're done with the website, do you always log out before closing the browser? Or do you just close the browser and you're done? Walk away.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. So we're going to say false just for fun. But I know we all log out before we leave a browser. I know we do. But just for fun, let's just say false.
And as Howard... Oh, go ahead, Meg.
I was just going to say, I think one of the valuable things to taking this assessment is it also helps you learn good practices. You know, it really helps you kind of identify those, because like that's something I kind of forgot about, to be honest with you. And it's like, oh yeah, I need to start doing that again.
So you were gonna add something to that, Brett? Sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. To Howard's point, it clears the session. And what attackers do is session hijacking. So obviously when you log into Bank of America, I'm going to keep using that because it's on the brain, I guess. Something needs to be on their end to prove that you are who you are. And it's called a session token, session cookie. There's a bunch of different terms people use. And if somebody takes that, they can put that right into their browser and they just open up your session as if they are you. So when you sign out, it kills that session.
No matter how
it's
great your
supposed
password is. Yeah.
My only comment here is I would take the same walk of shame as Marcus.
Oh, I'm completely guilty. Don't get me wrong. I am guilty. But it is best practice, and eventually need to walk the walk and talk the talk. So it's a good reminder.
Exactly. The things that these will bring up that sometimes we don't think about. Hey,
and
Coral.
It's not I was just going to say, and it's not always the banking sessions, right? If you're logging into something else, think of the information that those other sites have. Maybe it's not just your banking session, but maybe it's a whole bunch of PII or even your PII, right? So those are things to think about too with others, with other websites.
And Coral, what is PII again?
PII is your personal identifiable information. So that's all the things that include like your name, your address, maybe names of your kids, your I'm totally blanking. All that other information that's out there, social security number, your phone number. Granted, your phone number is not really private anymore, not like it used to be, but all of that stuff is considered PII. And your PHI is your personal health information, right? So if you're logging into your like I have a MyChart account with my clinic. If I'm logging in there, all of my information and all of my dependents are listed in there. So you can get a lot of information with that session.
And then PCI is another one that's out there.
Yep, that's another acronym, PCI. Brian, I'll let you grab that. Is that the payment card industry? That's the payment card industry, correct?
Card.
Yep, you are correct.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And Howard brings up a good point. There is identity theft out there. So all of that information is valuable to somebody. Even if it's not valuable to you, it's valuable to somebody else.
Yeah.
The highest cost per record that's being transmitted on the dark web right now is health information.
Yep.
Mm.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
I
right.
always find that crazy.
It's
Like,
because so many people already have the Social Security number.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
And my phone number, right? My phone number is no longer private anymore.
Right. Coral, you want to read the next one?
Yeah, we're looking at question 2.4. So how do you check the validity of emails and do you always check to see if they are genuine and safe? So this goes back to the training that you get with phishing, right? With your employers. Hopefully your employers are giving you some training. But there's always ways to, and it's gotten a little difficult now with AI. But there always used to be telltale signs of whether or not a email was legitimate or not, right? Misspelled words, or maybe reading a sentence and it just doesn't sound right, or jumbled letters. Um, Hovering over those links to see if those links are legitimate websites or if they're actually going to somewhere else other than like the Bank of America, right? So that's what we're looking at. Are you checking the validity of those emails before you start clicking on them or start replying to them? I will be honest, I'm one of those people. I multitask a lot, work, home, kids. Things are always busy and there's always a ton of information coming at you all at the same time. Um, I got caught up in one of these that it looked like a legitimate email from PayPal and it was not. I wasn't paying attention to it. Had I read the header information, which is the information of the full address of who it actually is coming from versus who it's showing me that it's coming from, I would have picked up immediately that it was not legitimate. But I got caught up in it and I put in my credentials and immediately went, oh no.
Oh no.
So I'm going to take my lunch early because I've got some passwords to go change and I'm going to go set up some MFA real quick. It happens, even with the best of us. I mean, I've been doing security for well over a decade, and all it takes is that one moment of weakness of being too busy doing too many things all at the same time, and you get caught up in it.
Yeah, Alex makes a good point in the chat. URLs that have HTTP instead of HTTPS, you want to make sure that the HTTPS are the valid, secure websites.
And I will say this, that the majority of the malicious websites that are out there are using HTTPS now. It's not just HTTP. So just because it has the S for secure doesn't mean that it's a legitimate website. So it still could be a malicious website.
Yeah, and something that we touched on earlier is refrain from using the links that are in the email.
Yeah.
If you know it's from, if the email looks like it's from your bank or Amazon, just go to Amazon and go to the bank, and then that information, the information they're saying you should be seeking will be there if it's legitimate.
Or I have to share a story. My
Story
husband
time.
does not have his name on any of our accounts, right? Because trust is not there. So I take care of all of our logins. But that being said, he'll get phishing emails saying, oh, your Netflix account is going to shut down because you got to pay this. I'm sure we've all received that. And he goes, joke's on you. I don't even know my password into my account and I don't pay for it. So it's like, also, if you know you don't have an account possibly with a vendor,
Sure.
that's an easy way to kind of sift out. But anyway, it's
Yeah.
No, that's good though. Yeah. Here on that, you want to read what do we got? 2.5?
Yeah, checking legitimacy and safety of unexpected emails, especially those that ask for any sensitive or personal information. So that also kind of piggyback on what you said, Dave. Go directly to the vendor website log into there, see if the alert is actually in your account. If you actually do legitimately have an account, so click that link that is in the email, even if it's legit. You know, even here at FRSecure, how many colleagues send us stuff and we're like, we'll message them quick. Did you actually send this to me? And it probably is, and they're just trying to get their day done, right? But
Sure. Hey, Brian, do you think we've reached a point that you just don't trust the emails anymore?
I don't trust anything anybody sends me at all.
There you go. That's
Although I might be the most paranoid person here right now, so
I was on the other end of the spectrum before I got into this industry. And so I just tend to be a very trusting person and just not feeling like people are out to do evil. But it's this, you know, just learning what I've learned. It's made me be more cautious and, you know, more in tune to what could be happening. And I know with the email piece, especially in this question really addresses it because it says any sensitive, especially if it's asking for sensitive or personal information. The best practice I get into, because I've been caught in this too, is look at the email and then immediately look at the address, who it's coming from, because that's going to be my indicator and help me decipher whether or not it's legit. We get these, I wouldn't say frequently, but we do get them at work where people are trying to pretend to be our owner. And,
sure.
you know, so that we'll click on something or go somewhere and then we just sick him on them.
Yeah. Well, Brian, to help yourself prove yourself right, there is a line that says paranoia is perfect awareness. So you're pretty close to goal there.
There you go.
Yeah. Actually, I was gonna say if we could click false on the next two, because I think those are kind of related where we could touch on them. And whoever wants to
kind of
those two.
touched on them too.
What's that?
I said we kind of touched on those two.
Okay. Well, if you feel we're good on those, we can move on. But
yeah, I think we've basically covered the kind of all dominoes until like about 2.9 there.
okay.
Yeah.
Victoria.
2.8 actually with the file attachments.
Yeah,
That's another thing.
Do it.
We didn't cover that with don't trust anything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just don't even trust it. Being like,
Yeah.
But I think that is one thing where you do get attachments that you need to access compared to a URL where, all right, I can just go to the website, but you do transmit documents through attachments.
Yeah.
And the scary thing is just clicking on it is all it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So with the Windows, because I know we have it set up, right? But you have a feature that can scan before it downloads a document or a file, whatever, onto directly your computer. You can enact something that scans it quick, looking for, I mean, I don't know if it's not foolproof, but you can scan it quickly, hopefully catching something malicious built in to that file before, otherwise it will kick it out. Am I wrong in my memory?
No, you're correct.
Okay. It is a Monday.
Yeah, it's just the only thing to think about that is to some degree, we're looking at home networks here.
Yep.
So some people won't have the same resources.
The licensing to have
That's
those
why I wasn't
features
sure
and
if it was
stuff,
built into a basic Windows license or not. That's something different.
I'm pretty sure any Windows machine, you can right click on a file and run a scan on it.
Okay. I believe you.
I do too.
I'm gonna I'm gonna do that on the next thing you send me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be the timekeeper. It's 7:36.
Yes.
So
okay. Yeah.
I think we can move down a little bit.
Respectful to people's time.
Yes.
Oh, sounds good.
Yeah.
Unencrypted email, I don't think anybody's going to be using encrypted.
Yeah, so keeping the work email, though, separate from personal. If you're going to take anything away from this, that is definitely one to do. Like when you're signing up for websites, plans, specials, like whatever it is on there, out the internet, do your personal. Even come up with like a couple personal emails if you don't want all that junk mail to come to you. Just don't use your work email, because then you're opening up not only your own stuff to risk possibly going on your device, but now you could open up your organization to be getting some kind of phishing thing that someone might accidentally click on themselves, right, in a rush. So just kind of keep those two in mind.
Yeah, and to that, like we were talking about earlier with that executive leader, you know, using their personal email address on the work, we'll inherently double down on how we're protecting our work emails, but the personal one may not be under the same scrutiny. So, anywho. The only thing I was going to say about 211 is this actually happened over the weekend where the people that do the pool maintenance for us want to switch us over to ACH and just do the monthly recurring. So we sent over the Word doc and just said, all I need is your name, name of your bank. And this was from the owner of the pool place. This was not a malicious email. But he was proud that he had this well-formatted Word doc. Said, all I need is your name, the name of your bank, the account number, and the routing number. And so I looked at it and I just followed up with him and said, I've got all of it, but what is another way that I can get this to you?
Yeah.
You know, and my point on that is that for as much as everybody's here trying to learn, play it forward for themselves and those around them, there's just a very high level of ignorance, and I don't mean it disrespectful, with others in our community that we collaborate with. And it really is an opportunity to hopefully help them level up as well.
So are emails automatically encrypted? Or is that something I have to do something special or have something special in order for that to happen?
You need a service.
Yeah.
I got to pay for it. I got to pay for a service.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if I don't pay for this service, then I would answer, I do not send through unencrypted email. I would have to answer false.
Which then
Well,
you can do a workaround, right?
You
so
just don't send the sensitive information through any email.
Right.
So those are my options. Either I have a service or I don't do that practice.
I say, even if you do have a service and you're encrypting email, try your best not to still send sensitive information, just because if there's so many different things that can go into it, right? Which is then I was looking, there's like 213, and that kind of goes into my point is we're going to use something like ShareFile or another share service where you can take those documents, you can take that information that should stay secure as possible, right? And then we're going to put it through there, and then the person has to log in and get it that way as a handoff versus just an email going back and forth. Because you also have to then think, what could be on the other end of my email? What is the other person's systems?
Right.
Are they secure?
What's in between?
Oh yeah, what's in between, man in the middle, is a possibility. And that's an attack approach, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, just remember, email initially was never secure. It never thought about it. It never took it into consideration. It was a big what moment that I can send you something, you can get it, and you can reply back. So anything that is done to try and secure email is a bolt add-on. The encryption. So
good.
Was that the last question?
That was the last one.
That was.
Okay.
And for
Well,
anybody wondering, peer-to-peer would be like me and Dave each have our computers at our own home, and I download a file directly from his computer to my computer.
yeah, and you've heard enough about Brett so far here that we don't want to do that.
It's a bad idea.
Yeah. And Brett already knows how hard to lock down my work stuff. Mention of others. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Totally appreciate the questions, the collaborative nature of everything, and for everybody that's here as a panelist or a mentor. Thank you very much. It is so awesome to think that we started with this as an idea all these months ago. And we got our first one under the belt. And,
All right.
yeah, and we'll be back March 1st for everybody. Here, if Brian, if you would drop here, let me do this.
Dave, just to correct you, it is not March 1st, it is March 11th.
Thank you. Thank you.
We don't want them showing up to something we're not going to be
Yeah,
at.
no, Stephen, don't, whatever you do, don't listen to the other guy.
Don't listen to Dave.
Yeah.
Coral.
It's a rabbit hole you don't want to go down. If you can drop that link in the chat, Brian, you're the only one with that power as host.
I know, he's like super god today.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah. But if anybody has any questions outside of this, it's the email address to the ISACA San Diego chapter. Drop us a note and we'll follow up with you. We'll play it forward. But thank you to everyone. This was fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks, team.
See you
Have a
next
great
month.
night.
Right on.